You are now watching The Beach.
Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is looked back upon as a masterpiece of garbage. There have been bad Nintendo games, but most of the time, they failed due to poor implementation of gameplay mechanics. Ultra Smash not only has bad game design with the chance shots, but a complete and utter lack of content. It was completely out of character for Nintendo to release Ultra Smash, and the point is, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is a bad game. Better than Ultra Smash is by no means a standard. A game being better than Ultra Smash is a very low bar to cross. I've seen aces get praised solely because it's not Ultra Smash, but if that's the case, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is a phenomenal game because unlike the first Mario Tennis on the Virtual Boy, it doesn't cause convulsions. But I want you to think about the circumstances surrounding Ultra Smash. It released when the Wii U was on its way out. I can see why Camelot wasn't motivated. It doesn't excuse it, but it does explain it. Camelot proved with Mario Golf World Tour that they were still capable of making fantastic Mario sports games. That released only a year before Ultra Smash. I was confident Ultra Smash was just a dud because Mario Tennis Aces looked incredible. I was pretty excited for Aces. You may be wondering why a tennis game was one of my most anticipated games of that year. Maybe because Nintendo was more interested in talking about the facial expressions on Donkey Kong, rather than revealing new games at that year's E3.
You'll notice that he and other fighters have expressive new facial animations.
Okay, that was a joke. But what I'm not joking about is that Mario Tennis isn't taken seriously because of its name. Mario Tennis is often assumed to be just tennis with a selection of Mario characters. Nobody will ever question you if you're excited for a new Mario Strikers or new Mario Sluggers. If those were called Mario Soccer and Baseball, I'm sure they wouldn't be taken as seriously. But what Mario Strikers is to soccer, Mario Tennis is to tennis. It takes the basic concept of tennis and makes it wacky. The console games provided all kinds of Mario-themed courts and mechanics, but the Game Boy entries were sports RPGs. Camelot knew the Game Boy entries couldn't have the same level of depth as the console games, so making them single-player focused sports RPGs was nothing short of brilliant. Mario Tennis Aces was hyped up to be the best of both worlds. Console gameplay and the Game Boy story mode? Sign me up! June 22nd, 2018 finally came, and I got Aces day one. To put it lightly, I was disappointed. Disappointed is quite the understatement. I'm aware the game has been updated many times since launch. The verdict is for the final version. The question is, was my revisit to Aces ace, or as excruciating as a post-Taco Bell deuce? The roster is the first thing you'll encounter in the game, and let me tell you, Aces does not disappoint. All the mainstays are here, but rather than going with made-up babies and metal characters, Aces actually has characters that weren't conceived in 5 seconds. Longtime favorites such as Diddy Kong and Birdo have returned, and the new characters are great. This is the first game to have Pauline as a playable character, and I'm so glad she's become a mainstay of the series. Mario, you messed up ditching Pauline. You had a girl who threw an entire festival in honor of you, but you go for a tool instead. Yet again, you are a plumber. There's a nice variety of Mario enemies too. Nintendo really loves Spike, don't they? But the best choices are the totally out there characters. Having Chain Chomp playable is nothing short of incredible. The only issue with the roster is that Miis are oddly absent, but other than that, the roster has a great variety of mainstays and out there bizarre characters. Now, I could stare at Waluigi all day, but the reason why you buy a game is to play it. Mario Tennis Aces is at face value, tennis. The primary concept is the same, but one thing that I noticed is that it appears to be using a modified engine of Ultra Smash. The movement and controls are very similar. That isn't a bad thing either, because if Ultra Smash did anything right, the controls and engine are good. But make no mistake, Aces does not play like Ultra Smash. The similarities are only limited to the basic controls and visual design. During a tennis match, there's a power meter that fills up. This allows you to perform special moves. If a ball is seemingly out of reach, you can slow down time for a better reach. You can also use the right analog stick to use a move to reach the ball. Then there are the zone shots. These are powerful and much faster shots. And just like in power tennis, you can pull off an extremely powerful special shot. If done right, you can actually break an opponent's racket. The special shots are often based on the characters, such as Pauline summoning the new Dunk City band, and of course, Waluigi is looking spiffy as ever. All the special moves require the use of the power meter. Slowing down time will decrease based on how much time you spent. You'll need a third of the meter full for a zone shot, and the special shot requires a full meter. The core gameplay is phenomenal. It turns a basic sport of tennis into a sophisticated game of strategy. This is what separates Mario Tennis from regular tennis. The core gameplay is outstanding, and with gameplay this good, I want to keep on playing the game. The adventure mode was heavily promoted, and I'm very excited to see what's in store. In the Game Boy iterations, the main characters are these human characters that only appear in those games. I've seen many off-put that Mario isn't the protagonist of the story. I didn't have an issue with it personally, but even I would have preferred Mario or even other Mario characters to be the central focus, and thankfully, the story mode in Aces features Mario. Our story begins with Wario and Waluigi finding a sentient racket named Lucian. Luigi is fascinated by it, and ends up getting corrupted after taking it. It's up to Mario to recover 5 Power Stones and revert everything back to normal. Right off the bat, the plot is eerily similar to Avengers. I found that more bizarre than anything, but the story is decent enough. The adventure mode consists of a variety of challenges, ranging from standard tennis matches, mini-games, and even boss fights. Conceptually, that's a pretty solid foundation, but unfortunately, the adventure mode is hindered with many issues. As the game progresses, it becomes more challenging, but there are random difficulty spikes throughout the mode. I remember just how difficult the ball rally with Kamek was. I'm all for a good challenge, but it was borderline unfair. The difficulty was adjusted in an update, but still, the difficulty remains inconsistent. You could use a full power mode, but I like to play the game as intended without any cheats. I could potentially forgive that if the adventure mode wasn't so short. It can easily be completed in 3 to 5 hours, but maybe that's a good thing because the main issue is the adventure mode is a complete and utter waste of time. Oftentimes, you'll face against characters that you can't even unlock. This was especially baffling when the game launched. I spent so much time and went through the trouble to beat Kamek, and what I get? Nothing. And he only became playable months after the game launched? That infuriates me. Mario can also level up and obtain new rackets, but you can't even use them outside the adventure mode. You can't even choose which stats to level up either. And like the rackets, Mario is only leveled up for adventure mode. It's clear the adventure mode was only added to be a selling point on the back of the box. It's a complete bust and a shadow of the true story modes from the Game Boy games. The only things you'll unlock in adventure mode are the courts and an alternate costume for Mario. You would think more unlockables would be available in other modes. There are tournaments to play both online and offline. The offline tournaments are structured the same as they always have been in Mario Tennis. Defeat opponents and become the champion. But unfortunately, the tournaments use the same court throughout every match. Remember that you could unlock characters by winning tournaments? The only thing I unlocked was yet again the realization I wasted my time. You gain nothing and the game doesn't even acknowledge you beat a tournament. Not even an indicator for a trophy, nothing. After playing on the same court over and over, you'll want to play the more interesting Mario-themed courts. Conceptually, they're very similar to the gimmick courts in Mario Power Tennis. Each court is different because it has a unique quirk. But unlike the creative and interesting courts found in Power Tennis, the theming here consists of the most basic Mario themes. Now sure, the location of the game takes place in a new area, the Kingdom of Basque, but these courts aren't interesting in the slightest. Now, it's one thing to have bland new Super Mario Bros. Themed courts, but generic Mario themes not tied to any game? That's a new low. Power Tennis has courts based on the definitive Mario games of the era, such as Super Mario Sunshine and Luigi's Mansion. Why couldn't we have courts based on Steam Gardens or Toast Arena? Only one of the courts stood out to me, being Snowfall Mountain. It's a Christmas-inspired Shy Guy village, and they even stay in a Boo Igloo, but the rest of them are bland and uninspired. You can't even play them in offline tournaments. Some may argue that Mario sports games are made for multiplayer, which is definitely true. The game is barren as is, but maybe the multiplayer can save it. In a world where everything has gone online, Nintendo has made it clear local multiplayer isn't going away. And the good news is that Aces has some solid multiplayer. Every time I play the game with friends, it's always fun. My friend hadn't played Aces before and easily got the hang of it. We had a really good time playing it. Just like the other Mario sports games, Mario Tennis Aces shines the most in multiplayer. Nintendo also heavily promoted the online. They even had an online playtest before the game released. It's funny that Nintendo is so adamant about making sure Super Smash Bros. Doesn't become an esport, but will go all out to make Mario Tennis one. Most of the time, the tournaments ran fine, but considering this is Switch Online, unfortunately it'll lag occasionally. Sometimes it'll lag at the worst possible moment and ruin your game. That's great, isn't it? Now, I mentioned a severe lack of unlockables offline, but there are many unlockables, only in the online tournaments. First of all, content is locked behind a paywall. You'll need the online service to get the costumes, but Nintendo isn't EA, so it's all fine and dandy, right? No, it's not! Not only are unlockables only in the online modes, but unlocking everything could potentially take years. If you want to have online unlockables, there's a right way to do it. Crash Team Racing Store rotates every day. You want to take a guess about how often the unlockables and aces rotate? A day? A week? How about an entire month? Look, many new games are releasing. Do you think I'm gonna sit here like a buffoon and happily await the rotation of costumes every month? This is not how you design rotary unlockables. But okay, let's say you really want a hat for Chain Chomp. I spent so much time waiting to find opponents. Fortunately, the online was more active on the weekend, but if a Mario game on one of the most popular modern consoles is a barren wasteland, that should be an indicator that something is really, really wrong. And when you do get a match, your game could end up ruined because of lag. The good news is that online is mostly stable, but the fact that unlockables are behind a paywall and they rotate at a snail's pace is not just bad game design, but horrible game design. You have an adventure mode and tournaments that have next to no unlockables, yet almost all the unlockables are online? As if that weren't bad enough, mini-games are also locked behind the online. Mario Tennis games usually have extra modes such as the item battle and mini-games. The adventure mode has many mini-games that are not even playable outside the mode. One of the mini-games is Shy Guy Train Tussle. It's either co-op or competitive. The idea for the game is decent, but you're forced to use a single Joy-Con with motion controls to play it. There is no reason whatsoever that it couldn't be played with a Pro Controller. Even less of a reason why it couldn't be played offline. The only other offline modes are Standard Tennis and Ring Rallies, two fundamental modes that have been in almost every Mario Tennis game. And guess what? It didn't even have Ring Rally at launch. The adventure mode is a joke. There's a severe lack of modes and unlockables, and almost all the content is locked behind a paywall. At this point, I was debating to just deem the game as a lost cause, but maybe, just maybe, the presentation could redeem it. Mario Tennis Aces has many of the characters wear tennis gear. Before Super Mario Odyssey, seeing Mario wear anything outside the standard hat and overalls was a rare treat, but it's fun seeing characters in tennis gear. This was actually something Mario's Tennis on the Virtual Boy did, but I'm not sure if it's a reference to that. But it's cool regardless. The characters look quite good, and as I stated before, many of the special moves have really cool animations that reference other games. Yup, that is Spike alright. This is the guy who deserved to be in Smash the most. And even though the courts are uninspired, they still look quite good. The visual presentation is quite good, but only for the characters and settings. The music, on the other hand, is quite forgettable. It just sounds like generic sports music. Now, a forgettable soundtrack is one thing, but believe it or not, Mario Tennis Aces has the most ridiculous sound design out of any game I've played. Many sound effects are reused from Power Tennis. That at least makes sense, but the walking and running sounds are ripped from Super Mario 64? What? You can clearly tell corners were cut. As if that wasn't enough, the game has an opening. It was added nearly a year after launch. The animation is pretty good, but after I watched it, I was at a complete loss for words. wondering, what on earth was that? Why is there a guy going berserk on a piano in a Mario Tennis Aces retrospective? Why and how could something so random and nonsensical even be part of this? Well, Camelot sure knows how to do that. The "he whacks funny" line is reused from Mario Power Tennis. See, when Camelot actually used to care about their games, they created an amazing opening for Power Tennis. Wario and Waluigi are jealous of the Mario brothers, and they draw faces on them. They get caught and run away to Bowser's tennis lair. Waluigi then notices Bowser walking, and then he says, "He whacks funny."
Oh, shut up!
It made sense. It makes absolutely no sense here, because when I'm mining for gold, the last thing I'll ever say is, "He whacks funny." To add even more insult to injury, an out-of-place Mario voice line from Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is used at the end of the opening.
Luigi!
Unbelievable. What's even more unbelievable is the presentation manages to get even worse from here, so much so where it almost makes the game unplayable. I was playing through the Mario courts and noticed no enemies were appearing. The settings said hazards were on for all the courts, but guess what? You have to manually turn them on every time you select a court. The so-called luxury of selecting a court wasn't even there day one. You had to manually turn off every court except for the one you wanted to play. Could you imagine if Mario Kart did something like this? Oh, and if you want to restart your save in adventure mode, it's under the category of bonus. Gee, being able to clear a save and restart certainly is a bonus feature. Now every time I bring up Aces, there's this one guy who comments non-stop making sure nobody criticizes the game. It is downright obsessive. He claimed that it's my fault Aces ended up being disappointing because I had such high expectations for a tennis game. Well, let me tell you, how is being able to select a freaking stage a high expectation? And since you stated it's just a tennis game, why are you so adamant about defending what you claimed is just a tennis game? It's just like when people disregard criticism of Nintendo games because they're kids' games. Really? Then why are you enjoying a game that you made fun of for being a kid's game? The UI is the worst I've ever seen in any game. Even Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, one of the worst Nintendo games ever made, has a solid and easy to use UI. And if we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, Mario's Tennis on the Virtual Boy has a good UI. It's not just limited to the UI either. The entire presentation can be summed up in one word: lifeless. There are no winning animations, no custom fonts. This is something that easily could be made in PowerPoint. The presentation is often a reflection of a game's quality, and it's clear nobody working on the game even cared. The reason why Mario Tennis Aces is so disappointing is because it easily could have been a great game. Mario Tennis Ultra Smash was a lost cause. The gameplay is poorly designed and nothing could have saved that game. Even if it did have Mario-themed courts, you're better off playing Mario Tennis Open, or most of the Mario Tennis games. Lost potential is far more disappointing than a flat-out bad game. I see the potential with Aces. The core gameplay is great. I really wanted to like this game. Why wouldn't I? It's the first time we can play as Pauline. But the lack of unlockables, uninspired courts, and an atrocious UI ruin the game. Not to mention that the unlockables here are locked behind a paywall. Camelot would then release Mario Golf Super Rush a few years later. I remember specifically hearing, "Well, it has a stage select menu and opening. That's a step in the right direction." Are those standards? And from what I've heard, Mario Golf Super Rush is even worse than Aces. If I were Nintendo, I'd fire Camelot because it's clear even ND Cube is more competent. It's easy to say Aces was rushed, but let's think about it. It uses many assets from Ultra Smash and had a decently long development cycle. What I assume is happening at Camelot is probably this. There are also two crucial aspects that always need to be brought up covering Mario Tennis Aces. I remember watching and reading reviews for the game. Almost all of them praised the gameplay, but said it lacked single-player content. When I heard that, I thought the primary focus was on multiplayer, as it always has been. Mario Kart is multiplayer-centric as well, and doesn't have much sole single-player content, with the exception of Mission Mode in Mario Kart DS. The same could also apply to most of the Mario sports games. I had no idea that that actually meant the game is severely lacking content, and it has a downright unusable interface. Next to no reviews mention those critical issues, and I wasn't the only one to notice that. Arlo brought it up, and out of the many reviews that I've seen, he was one of the very few to go in detail about the major issues of the game. Opinions are subjective, but as a reviewer, you have to mention potential flaws. They may not affect or bother you, but it's important viewers are aware of them. It's clear Nintendo has very specific guidelines when it comes to reviewers, and will stop sending review copies if reviews are too critical. What happened to Arlo? Nintendo actually stopped sending him review copies for a while. The reason I'm so critical in reviews is because of Mario Tennis Aces. I'll never forget how ripped off I felt after buying the game. Being a reviewer, you have to bring up potential flaws just like you would bring up strengths. Not even bringing up the lack of content and the awful UI is downright irresponsible as a reviewer. Mario Tennis Aces is also the reason why I only buy games day one that I'm fully confident in. I skipped Super Mario Party because I felt scammed after getting Aces, but I did eventually get it when it was on sale, and I'm definitely covering that game as well. I want to be excited for games like Mario Strikers Battle League, I really do, but I'm so worried it'll end up like Aces or Super Rush. And don't forget, Mario Tennis Aces is a full-price game. Remember when Nintendo used to release smaller titles on the eShop? Games like Dr. Luigi and Mario vs. Donkey Kong Minis March Again are great, but they were priced lower because the games are more simplistic and don't have as much content as a full-price game. Of course Mario Tennis will not be as exciting as a 3D Mario game, but if you look at a game like Mario Tennis on the N64, it has a good amount of content to justify it being full price. If Mario Tennis Aces was a $20 eShop game, I may be singing a slightly different tune, but Aces is in no way, shape, or form worth full price. Now I'm referring to the final version, because believe it or not, it was way worse at launch. Just like Kirby's Star Allies, there's often the question of whether or not Mario Tennis Aces launched unfinished. If you said Star Allies was finished, I could take it or leave it. I can see how that's debatable, but if you said Mario Tennis Aces launched finished, no. Just no. There is no way in hell it launched finished. If a game doesn't even have a stage select menu and is missing parts of the story, it is by no means complete. What the? Who the heck are you?
I'm Petey. Games being content-like don't make them unfinished. Things like a stage select menu aren't necessary. Unfinished games are more referring to stuff like Cyberpunk or Avengers, where there are clear cracks for what is supposed to keep the game together, and it shows. As long as the game turns on and nothing catches fire, it's by no means unfinished. Mario Tennis Aces is clearly finished.
Thanks, Petey. Thank you for addressing the main problem. The problem with Mario Tennis Aces has nothing to do with the lack of content, but the definition of what makes a game unfinished. Mario Tennis Aces may be lacking basic features, but calling it unfinished is a no-no word. I'm forever grateful that you addressed the main issue of the game, being the improper use of the word unfinished. Thank you. Now that that's out of the way, I wanted to ask you, how the hell did I get my $60 back?
It's time to take out the trash. Say high quality animations. How about high quality annihilation? Yearly releases only work for just fans. Take this. Mario Golf Super Rush. More like Mario Golf Super Rush. Toast! Game Pass. Who needs that when you have Jelly Boy and Kablooey? Nintendo Switch Online. More like Nintendo is doing a line. Except you Banjo, you can stay. The Switch is the greatest game console ever.
Test your swordplay skills in Chambara.
I can't wait to play Chum Bucket.
Also, a legendary free software update is coming this summer that adds leg strap compatibility to soccer matches.
A third free update that lets us enjoy games that aren't rushed lifeless trash. We'll launch right now.
To nobody's surprise, Mario Tennis Aces doesn't get the ranking of trash, but a complete and utter dumpster fire. Even though Paper Mario Sticker Star is worse designed and was a worse experience overall, no game has ever made me feel as sour as I did with Mario Tennis Aces. I would say that Sticker Star is still objectively the worst Mario game in my opinion, but from a personal level, that easily goes to Mario Tennis Aces. Now then, I hope the next game I play is something that makes me happy.